Hey everyone, this is Stingray coming to you from Floresville, Texas, where I'm going to attend one more time to my father's business. And I'm doing it out of necessity, and I wanted to make a private video for you guys, for the family. And this one's going to kind of be short and simple, but as we all understand, a short and simple story, including the full story, is a little bit complicated. So what I'm telling you privately in this video, that obviously anyone with the link can choose to share if they wanted to, I'm basically presenting you only with this link so that you can watch a little bit of my perspective of what's going on. In my perspective, as far as things have been handled so far, as a courtesy, I would hope, as the son of this person, some of you might call him the son of a bitch, but you're calling your own mother exactly what you're calling my father. You understand? Does that make sense? In other words, I'm driving through town right now in Floresville to tend to my dad's business, and I'm about to cross an intersection that has a green light. I used to do this in my bicycle. I used to ride to Walmart, buy some Game Boy games or whatever bullshit I was spending my money on that was entertaining me away from the sheer agony of some of what I was living. In order for me to cope, I was very quiet, and I didn't have a whole lot of outlet in my imagination, but video games, technology, all that shit works for me. A lot of people have worked for me, and a lot of people have worked against me. And I'll tell you one thing only. When you challenge me, I've seen worse shit. I've been beat for things that didn't make sense. I'd been riding my bike to the Walmart for 2 years, maybe more. And one day I told my dad I went to Walmart, and it's like this time he just heard, because I would always tell him when he asked me, what have you been up to? You know? And so I would tell him, unless that caused an outlash at some point, I would tell him, because I was honest with him. And then immediately, if I did something wrong in his eyes, he would punish me. So what came to my mind as I decided to record this private parts video for you guys, for you who are watching, you know who you are. That's right, we're family, so this isn't really that difficult. It's just me talking and telling you my background. It might sound a little agitated, but it's only passionate, like my grandfather would say. And my grandfather, he would hear things and then deal with them with a little bit more compassion. To me, you know, I don't know how he treated anyone else. From my personal experience, the reason that I have a specific opinion about grandfather is based on how he treated me. I don't know how he treated you guys, but he treated me as a person, and he helped me to cope with some of the situations, like being told, don't cross the highway, you know, ever. It's like, man, I've been doing this for 2 years. Have you ever watched Clan of the Cave Bear or heard the story? Or read it, I should say. Anyway, whatever the case, my dad one time got so pissed off that I crossed the road, something I'd been doing for 2 years. And he beat me about it. And so he did that thinking that was the way to nullify the situation, when instead all it really did was cause me a significant pain. My father struck me again.
Now turn right.
Now, this has happened very recently to me. Again, my dad struck me again. And I'm telling you, my family, the way that my dad would tell me. But I'm also telling you how my grandfather would tell me a story. Because there are two versions of every story. That's just a given. I'm driving to the post office to send off 4 letters, which they're written in plain English, which is the the common language that I experienced throughout my entire time frame in this body as this person who I am. I often didn't even want to talk in Spanish because of my dad. You know, repite! He'd get so pissed off that I didn't say it right. Get so pissed off. Let's see. This one's to a friend. This one I'm mailing for a friend. This one is to my dad's relative. This one's to my dad's relative. This one's to my dad's relative. This one's to my dad's relative. Why do I say it that way even? My dad's relative. We got to think about the spelling of all of it. Why we say things the way we say them. What it means. My dad's relative what? His relative disposition? What was I to him when he could beat me? I can't even come to harm insects. I find myself vacuuming up insects and taking them outside. I care for my pet. You know? And all the while, I don't even know where this GPS is taking me. I'm serious. It took me to some kind of small apartment complex type thing right by the Floresville post office. This is the beautiful type of landscape where my dad should live. I don't even know what this is, but I'm literally pulling up next to the post office. If I was my dad, man, I'd love to live right next to the post office because I could just take my mail and, deal with things the way that I've been dealing with them for a long time. Write a letter, send it out. Today, I'm making a video. This might seem radical to the older generations, which I should have said wiser generations. I'm sorry, I apologize for that.
Possible. Then turn right.
I don't need guidance from here to get to my dad's house, where I'm going to tend to the yard again. You see, when I mowed the lawn the first time, I have a battery-powered mower. It takes care of my yard. It's even got 2 batteries. And for the days of the heavy lifting where the lawn's really overgrown or something, you know, I've got what I need to maintain my stuff. I don't have what I need to maintain everyone's stuff right now because I'm not some rock star millionaire yet. Oh man, I joke around a lot. But the funnier thing that always happens to me in life is the more I say something, the more things become true. And the more I say my dad needs help might mean the more he needs help. But the more you, as my family, say he has dementia and he has this, that, and the other, and he needs to, I understand. It's the same reason I cannot personally say, hey, let's take my dad into my house where he's only met my wife one time. How is your family? How many times have you been able to peacefully visit with your family, with your spouse, because everyone loves each other and is at least pleasant to one another? How is it for you? That's not how it is for me. In today's world, I was told by 2 people, friend and family, supposedly, that they would help mow the rest of the yard. Because I'm just doing what was told was required. It's like a sign from a higher power if someone mistakenly tells you, hey, someone's complaining about this. Well, I want to fix that. I know what it is to have an overgrown yard and all of the problems that are presented from that. I would never let my own yard go unmaintained. In fact, I do it myself. I do it myself so much that the person I'm married to has learned to operate the whole place independently the same way. Either of us could run that place, with or without one another. And so I started talking about health, because on my mom's side of the family, I noticed an interesting trend. And some of it wasn't just physical health that we were talking about. You might want to call it spiritual. You might want to call it whatever you want to call it. I'm going to just call it a sign from a higher power. Something my grandpa, something my grandfather would have heard. In today's world, some of our fathers have so much pride, there are certain things they can't hear. They might not even hear it because I'm moving my hand in the screen. Or they might start hearing it. I've heard a lot of things about messengers throughout time. Some have been crucified for shit that they didn't even do that hurt anybody. And I know that in your clique, you're not even my family. I divorced you today. I put the letters in the mail. In your clique, if you hate me because you hate that guy who's struggling, wow. Out of all the people for you to hate, at least I know where these gray hairs came from. Some of our more enlightened family talk with me about these things, and we even talked about it, and we got better sleep the next night, the very same night and the next night. I kid you not. The way we think about one another impacts one another, especially when we're family. So if you want to crucify me, bring it. I dare you. If you can't even mow your own yard, don't offer to mow someone else's. Definitely don't try to tend to someone else's property and think you're going to do it the right way, ever. The way my dad talked to me is an energy that carries through today. The way my grandfather talked with me is an energy that carries through today. If you can't hear our fathers from our children, you need to pull your head out of your ass. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm not trying to be mean. We just don't have time to spare in this bullshittery. I've had cousins tell me I'm sexist. That wasn't uncommon. I already was talking about this illness before my own cousins started to do that. Even though I was defending them in their own family confrontation, I said, no, you're in the right. I'm not trying to be mean. In my opinion, you're in the right. And I said it in that kind of a way. Our today's world is social media, and there are people ghosting one another. What is ghosting one another? It's when you don't respond to the person that asked you a question or said something to you. Hello, have a nice day. This happens to me on the trails every day. Look back through my public YouTube videos. I'm talking about something that's happening in your life right now, whether you recognize it or not. And I say it's happening in your life because it's the truth. Anybody who has any balls can respond to me, and even if you don't have any balls, all the more power to you. You women gave me life. I'm only alive because of a woman. What my dad doesn't want to take responsibility for, including his own yard, I learned a completely different lesson. You would want me on your team. I'm willing to bet if I just went ahead and just changed this to public, which I should, then maybe, just maybe, someone would recognize we're not behind any screens all the time. In real life, we're on the other side of the screen. In other words, whatever you're seeing from me, however you're feeling, you might not have been feeling that way before. You might not have understood what I was saying. You might not have even wanted to hear this kind of stuff. Something brought it to your attention. And how you're feeling is different than how you were feeling before you knew what I was saying. It might carry with you for a long time to see something through another person's eyes. When you look through another person's perspective and see, trying to look for where the camera is, how long someone's been crying and trying to get help, when you start looking at those things, like really looking, if anyone's been traumatized and knows how to get past adversity, maybe the child of an addict is the first person that you need to talk with when it comes to helping an addict through their recovery process. When I crossed the street and went to Walmart, I must have got either a G.I. Joe or a Game Boy game or something. I don't know. I probably was G.I. Joe's, because by Game Boy era, I think Dad didn't care if I was riding the bike. Whatever era it was, where I was going all the way to Walmart. During this town was so small. The post office was right up the road from Dad, from Grandpa and Grandma's. You guys remember? So anyway, when I did that, I was having a pleasant day, and then bam! Never cross the street again. I'm telling my dad a story that was pleasant. Bam! It's like whipping a dog for something the dog doesn't know what it's doing. Bam! That shook my attention. I'm shaking your attention right now. You don't know what to make of me. Am I a sinner? Am I a saint? Am I the same? I'm the same thing as you. It's just that the way the family feels about me has really caused a lot of other people consideration for my own well-being, because they've noticed my blood pressure. It's kind of interesting. And I'll venture to bet over and over, especially as more of you watch this video, my blood pressure goes a little bit more normal when someone says, yeah, I feel your pain. I understand. I can't believe it. I'm so sorry. Even my equals, my cousins, who understand what I'm sorry, the video got interrupted. Even my cousins, my equals, who have, did you hear that? In the people that I talk with, when a physical response happens, sometimes the other side of you can agree. There are two sides to each coin, two sides to each person, two faces that we can present. Sometimes they work in harmony, and the absolute cutthroat killer in somebody can speak on the behalf of the most peaceful person. I'm not here to slaughter anybody. G.I. Joe, Sergeant Slaughter. Does anyone remember that wrestler? They made a G.I. Joe out of him. I remember the first time I saw the song Thriller by Michael Jackson. It was while we were at my dad's brother's house, and we were hanging out with my cousins, and my favorite cousin, Raulito. I mean, I say my favorite cousin, I mean, back then he was just this guy that when I looked up to him, I was like, wow, this guy is powerful, you know, he's handsome, everything. I wanted to be like him. And I always think about him because my dad and he and I, one day we got to Carlsbad Caverns, and even though my dad beat me for going across the street, we got to Carlsbad Caverns, and we had just missed the last big tour where you walk through the natural entrance of the cave. And so Raulito got the idea, let's climb the fence. So my dad agreed, because he's, you know, he can make some decisions that are interesting even though he has a kid with him. And I climbed the fence too. We climbed a fence. So I've jumped a fence. Anyone who wants to prosecute me, I've jumped a fence to go to the other side of the border that was there. So anyway, I jumped a fence, and we walked down to the natural entrance. We got all the way down there. If you've gone to Carlsbad Caverns, it's a huge entrance, and the descent is overwhelmingly amazing. Anyway, we walked all the way down there, and we were some way into the cave before the lights turned out. Imagine if we got there earlier and walked even further down the cave where we couldn't see on the way back. There's drop-offs not too far after everything gets pitch black. Even with the rails, if I'm a kid, I'm not at the same level of an adult who's basically holstered off by their waist. Some of our adults feel called out. I know how it feels to be reprimanded for something I've done that might not 100% be accurate or accurately assessed or even executed. I understand that I should not, even through the beating, is the whole point of this story, even through the beating, cousins and family, even through the beating, I heard what my dad was. He had so much concern that I could have been hurt crossing the freeway. I mean, I was emotionally hurt by my dad that same day, but, you know, that's a different topic for another day. For today, I'm talking about the topic of, I'm not my father. Why are people treating me like my father? I'm not my father. Why do I have to maintain his yard if he's going to continually put me at the disadvantage? I agree with you guys. So what is the solution? Why can I raise money outside and then give it back, even though I have next to nothing? The funniest thing about this story, cousins, I kid you not, I just did this. I came back from a location up north where I was for a whole month in isolation, cleaning a house that belonged to someone just like my father. I got the exact same contributions for that experience as I did for this experience, which was, it's a time that's often celebrated in Colorado. It's a specific number. Some of you will get it, some of you won't. It's like some people for wine, you'll say it's 5 o'clock somewhere. The heritage of what we have to pass forward from our fathers, it's rich. It just depends on what parts are we going to leave out and then leave ourselves exposed to being picked apart by parasites in our own family. What is it going to take for people to recognize that? Does it take me making this public and then boom? Why do I have to even think like that? Why do you have to think like that? Are you afraid? You see, the truth will always set us free, no matter at what point you employ it. The things we employed in the past, the ways we employed in the past, who got paid for it? And what for, if they can't even read? I mean, literally, that's all anyone at my level of the hierarchy in this particular society has ever wanted, was just to be heard. You know, it's like, I don't want to be hurt. I'd at least like to be heard. And some of you have shown me the most amazing compassion and have heard my story. You may not have heard the whole thing, just because of how it was written and how our attention spans are in today's world. That's not a knock on you. It's just something that I've noticed. I've noticed it more and more, even when I told the story about cleaning this house up and putting it on social media. Someone thought I had a substance abuse problem and I had annihilated my home. They didn't even care to read the words or any of the other comments on the same exact set of pictures. So I got to this point where I just started kind of eliminating the people who weren't participating anymore, because they have already made a mental agenda to not hear the rest of what was being said, even when someone would ask them to hear it, you know, politely at that. Anyway, I've got a lot of stuff going on in here. If you look down, there's like, you got to see. There's all of this. I should have left this in. It's like I was stuffing envelopes while I was driving with money that I just took out of the bank. Energy. Time is money, right? Time is energy. I'm putting energy in. How is my family seeing me right now? Would Grandpa be heard if he recorded something like this and asked you, hey, if you can't help out, just at least get out of the way and let other people really help. But seriously, those who can help out, Who is that? If no one can even hear the most significant person being beat by this guy. Beat, and I mean that only physically, because and even then, the miracle of this story, the other person who was in the car with my father and I can tell this story. They just haven't told the story publicly for whatever reason. But my dad, when he started pounding on my arm, which was I already had like a fractured wrist of some sort that I could barely bear 3 to 4 pounds worth of weight in it. And you can see I've had surgery on it before. My dad, I had to hold on in this car he was wrestling me out of the car. You know how that is? Have you ever had that happen? He was trying to pull himself out of the car. My aunt was in the back, the car was shaking, the cops were over there talking about where they were going to go to lunch next. I had to start honking while I was holding Dad with this arm. And the only thing that really got a rein on it, and my other person who was with me can attest to it, I started praying the Our Father. If you're still watching this, you know that I say this prayer frequently. And there's a reason behind it. Every sentence in that is of peace. When I look at the Pledge of Allegiance, for an example, it doesn't give me the same fuzzy feeling inside. You understand? So when you operate knowing the answer, what would Jesus do? Things come out a lot more positive, in favor of blessings and bounty. So for anyone who's mistaken my insight one way or the other, shunned it, spat on it, disregarded it, or otherwise slandered my good name, my name's different from my father's. And for the record, and literally for the record, I think I'm going to change my name to something else altogether that doesn't have the family name, which is already on the street with this burnt down house that I have no say-so in terms of how it's restored, if it's restored. And I just kind of want to say, go fuck yourself. Oh wait, I'm sorry, I went too far with that. I'm sorry. Seriously. You know I can think that. And you can think that about me. The only question is, if a third party was hearing this story that I'm telling you right now, would you think that I just got actively disrespected and continue to be disrespected for a reason? Or is it more like you just can't describe it? It doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, you should take offense. Even, look, so there's a sticker up here. There was this viejito that I used to ride around with. He reminded me of our grandpa, except for like the wealthy version, the one who didn't worry about money. And he was a totally different character. Some of you know the story. You can see the sticker peeling off right now. The stickers that are meant to be here stick on, and some of them peel off. It's kind of like our health is directly intertwined when we think about certain people certain ways. But that sticker keeps peeling off, and it's going to come off. There's this guy who I traveled a lot of the amazing places that are Native American with this guy. He's an amazing guy. He's about 82 now, probably. He can walk 10 miles. Super amazing guy. You won't hear me saying bad things about him, but I will point out the observation that he suddenly couldn't talk with. He couldn't bear to hear some of the things I was saying anymore. Even though I helped him. Initially, he couldn't walk. He couldn't walk at all. The doctors told him he would never walk again. And I asked him what he thought. He said, I don't want to think that. And I said, well, don't. Do you believe you're going to walk? And he said, yeah. And I said, I can help you get there. And so we worked with nutrition. The woman I'm married to had surgery on her arm that she was going to have an immobile arm for 6 months. It took her 6 weeks to recover fully. The doctors thought it was a miracle. We told them it was food, and they were like, probably. You might just be a fast healer. They couldn't hear that I was saying, I've seen this happen over and 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 over again. That's why I talk about food. My whole public channel, Wellness and conservation, they're both tied together. If you care about something and you don't want to kick the puppy in the grass, you don't want to whip the boy who just said, I rode across the freeway, you're concerned, but you don't want to whip the boy. If you're in that kind of mindset, well, the things that we eat take a similar energy. If we just want to eat while we're watching bad news and we're eating whatever we're eating, think about that energy. It was kind of neutral, except for the fact that it got slaughtered for you if you're eating meat-based all the time. So all of my songs are written in the same way. I've got my Jeep, it's classic. It starts out, I've got my friends, they help me out, they hear all the things that I say, they share all my posts, especially nature. They love all the songs that I play. And then I went green, stopped using plastic. You know what I mean? I try to use cash. Said that less meat is good. I've still got my Jeep. I'd take it in a hybrid. I still got my Jeep. It gets me where I'm going. I'd take it in a hybrid if I could. It's a true story. Anyway, I got a little pop-up that asked me if I'm awake. It is 3:07 right now. It's 91 degrees out. I'm about to start the yard. I'm not going to use any headgear. I'm going to just go out there and do it. My cousin Raulito, he would have done the same thing. He was so amazingly strong. One day, I kid you not, the neighbor's yard, we used to play basketball. I'll try to show the hoop in a video here. We used to play basketball at that hoop. And one day, the ball bounced across the yard, across the fence. He just literally leapt over the fence. He used to tell me how he would load barrels on the 18-wheelers. Nobody else could do it. He would pick up these super heavy items. For a brief moment in time, I was following that path. Something, let's call it the F word, family, kept us together enough for me to consume a little bit more illness than I really intended to or even cared to. So I'm giving this to you, telling you, you have the chance to watch this and keep it the private parts that they are, because there's 2 videos that I have to merge together. Or it doesn't matter if I share this or not. Somebody's going to benefit from what I just recorded. The whole purpose of me doing anything just like you is for good or bad. I'm moving as if the Holy Spirit, God Himself, Jesus was walking the earth, sitting right next to me, told me, Mijito, tenemos que hablar. I'm not really moved to say any other. You have to talk, use your voice. There's words that come and don't come, and if I focus too hard on it, my head hurts. I don't have the right energy. I don't know what's happening. I can tell you, I used to dream frequently. Now it's rekindled as of when I talked with this person that I, shared some good information with, back and forth in terms of how we feel, how we can get healthy, and talking about spirituality, really talking about it, not just saying you really need to put God first. You really need to, if you're struggling, you really need to do this. That's great. Done it. And I'm not responding the same as you because I wasn't raised the same as you. My stoic characteristics and my passionate presentation can scare people, because most people have only dealt with certain types of men, certain types of ways. That was another funny aspect about something that led me to the conclusion that I kind of it dawned on me. It's like I would only meet people just like my dad over and over. Across time, when I thought about it, it was like, that's my dad over and over. Anyway, if you can't recognize my father, it's because you can't recognize your own father. And you might even have some communication difficulties that are present if you only talk about sports, the weather, religion, and certain things without ever going deep. And ladies, you know what I'm talking about. And I really mean no disrespect. All I'm saying is, when someone goes deep and goes the extra mile to do their work, to do their part. And you know when someone's slacking off and they really wouldn't even put in the time. They're not even worth your 2 minutes. Why'd you marry them? Why are they employed? Why are they collecting so many benefits when the other people who worked real hard are having their stuff swiped right out from under them? Why is that? I don't know, but I've already written you a letter. This is the last one. After this, I want to focus on my own mission, which is to help people who actually want help. There's some people who pretend. I cut through the bullshit, and that's my job. So, peace out. Hey guys, I don't know whether to start with this or end with this, but I'm going to tell you, that was a miracle where I was parked. Remember I said this is a place where my dad should live, right? It's called Paloma something Hills Senior Center. I took a picture. I have a really interesting memory. I was violently dropped on my head when I was a child. So there are certain things that don't stick in my head the same way they do in yours. And there are other things that do stick in my head a lot more significantly because of levels of fear. You know, I'm not really afraid that I won't be able to look up that picture later, so I didn't have to remember the name of the thing. I don't have to use processing power for it. The miracle of this, though, is I put in literally earlier today when I started this journey, I put in the address for my dad's house, which the GPS has taken me there every time without fail. And then on the way, since I was stuffing envelopes, I was like, I want to go to the post office. So I looked that up on Uconnect, sent it to this thing, it transfers to the Jeep. I love this car. And basically, boom, went to the post office. And then, when I put it into the GPS, it says add as first destination or whatever. So I did. I clicked add as first destination. So it took me there, and then literally, you guys saw it on the video. I drove around the corner into this parking lot, and I said, I don't even know why it's taking me here. It was taking me to my dad's address. Do you understand? In other words, somehow I got taken to an assisted living facility, and that was unexpected. And it was so unexpected that I'm pretty certain I drove the wrong way. Remember how I just said I don't need the directions to get to my dad's house? I'm pretty sure I just drove up whatever this highway is, 151, 181, 181, and instead of turning the other way, because the post office apparently was just past my dad's, or I wasn't paying attention because I wanted to tell you this miracle. The whole point is, I'm taking the scenic route to dad's house to tell you about this miracle. I just was taken by this system to the senior center that was right there with a post office right next to it. I literally was just taken there by the GPS that usually takes me to my dad's address. So what I'm telling you is, it's not hard for dad to change when he wants to change. What's hard is, a lot of us think about people a certain way, and some people are telling stories, lies. You'll know the liars because they don't want to talk in public. They want to shield themselves behind a veil of paperwork. And that doesn't mean all people who do that are liars. Some people are they don't want to talk. They're afraid to talk. You know, they've had a traumatized past. Anyway, all in all, the GPS took me to the senior center that's here in town. It's called Paloma something, but that has a tie. For anyone who might see this, if this becomes public video, even for anyone who knows this isn't a public video, you know the story about when I went and took my dad to the hot springs town, Truth or Consequences. So, with all that being said, I was just by divine guidance shown you. I was able to show you as it happened, me pulling into the place that it was telling me was my dad's house. It was taking me to the second place. The reason I wasn't paying attention to that, the reason I was deferring to the system, I thought it knew some back way through there that would take me to dad's house. And at the same time, I knew that it looked like it was suspiciously short. I knew something was off, but I was telling a story and I didn't want to forget the train of thought, which was, if you can't hear these stories speaking almost as if from beyond the grave, if you can't hear our grandparents in this, then I don't know what to say. And in fact, I'm passing right now by the Wilson Memorial Hospital where my grandparents, you know, the pecan trees are beautiful. There's a dead squirrel on the ground. I talk about wildlife and how you only see roadkill sometimes in residentials now. I talk about the population of insects, how it's been depleted, how the arguments, I don't got time for that, man. All I got time for is every day to have the funnest, most amazing day possible and tell you about the miracles from God himself that are playing out, because I'm literally just going in that direction. I'm going in the direction that I'm being called. I have to make choices along the way. I keep getting presented with some serious shit. Real serious shit. And in every case, it's just an escalation to try and make me recognize, well, what am I supposed to do in my own, in my own family? I'm not an addict to some of the things that you guys might be addicts to, but we're all addicted to something. It just depends. I should say we're all entertained by something. Addiction is a terrible word. It means that you would prioritize that over an urgent situation. No matter how much I want it to be, for an example, no matter how much I want it to be our house to share, I don't even know what I was talking about example-wise. Basically, there was another vehicle at the intersection. Oh, and there's a squirrel crossing the road. No, okay, so no matter how much I want to pay attention to all these other situations, even though I believe, due to the interesting anomalies in wildlife, that a cataclysmic change is coming to our known way of life, which is why we're being distracted and torn apart, divided, isolated, feeling lonely, anxious. I'm not. I'm just having a great day, trying to do everything I can, walking the path. I don't even have to think. I only have to do it. It's like a Nirvana song. It's like every story that's ever been told. Just do something good. Do something positive for one another. And sometimes that takes gently waking up a person who has the stiff neck. I'm all suited up. I can't talk like that in front of anybody because they might recognize that I'm saying something possibly a little bit off, but it's not really off. I've helped other families just like that, and that person basically refuses to talk with me anymore. And that's only a temporary thing, The fact is, this story is going to succeed, and when it succeeds, the only thing that's left from that then is to share the success. And as you share success, of course, there are entities that come out of the woodwork to get their slice, even before there was a slice to be had. So with all that in mind, don't follow the old ways if you yourself don't feel comfortable with them. Question everything that you do, including what you purchase, how many plastic tubes or whatever, or any particular space, how many containers it took to get you the food that you have, and always know health is wealth. And you'll see. Right now I look one way. Some people in the family have seen me looking like movie stars, like a movie star. That's literally the words they would use before they got too anxious to comment anymore. So this isn't calling you out, it's just telling you, wake up. You got nothing to fear. Pretend Jesus is here. What would Jesus do? Ask yourself the question. Ask yourself, would Rayito call someone, to make them feel like he's a sexist? Would Rayito do that? No. I might be pretty blatantly honest about some of the things that are happening in our family. That doesn't make me a sexist. It's an observation that some people follow a hierarchy. You don't need to. The hierarchy is way higher than the hierarchy that you've been thinking that was the same as the hierarchy that was from above. Open the book. Read it yourself. The law and all that's just secondary. It will back up, without a doubt, everything you're doing if you're doing the right thing. That's all there is to it. So, looking out here, there were some mowers on the day that my dad's house burned down. but they weren't here when I came with my mowers knowing that something would be amiss. The grass, I was able to cut it in 3 attempts because the grass was so high. Today it looks kind of low. If you go back through my history, there's a review of an electric mower, which I think is amazing because it can practically be charged off the solar power that we have built into our home. And it mows as well as, if not better than, a gas mower, except for if you have a huge high volume of grass to cut through for too long of a time. Since I just cut it before I came out here with my 2 batteries and my weed eater, I'm gonna try to mow all of Dad's yard with this one mower. If I tell you it did it, you'll know it's amazing. If I tell you it failed, then you'll know I needed a 3rd battery. Either way, I'm not getting promoted or sponsored or anything to say these things that I'm saying. I'm not wearing shirts because it's like, it has Metallica on the back. I'm wearing things, I'm doing things that I like. I talk about things that make me happy. Talk about things that you would smile about when you really thought it through, and you would invest your dollars in going green, possibly. You know, I say that more ways than one. Going green, baby. Some people need to chill out, and they don't have literal chill pills that are non-addictive or habit forming. So you might want to visit Colorado sometime if you have trouble, real trouble. And know that when you talk to the people behind the counter, there are strains. There are 2 major strains of this stuff that I'm hinting at or alluding to. The people who are really stuck on prescriptions only have to confront those ideas that they're afraid of. And by confront, I mean, again, your dad's not actively hitting you right now. You're not even in traffic at the intersection. Look around. It's a green yard I'm about to cut. I'm talking about lawnmowers and peace and being happy and all that. I'm telling you, I want the same thing you guys want. And I'm asking you to communicate, especially on this. Click on the description. Type something. Subscribe. Help me out in some format of what it is that I'm trying to do. You know, I like to play music. Hear a song and tell me if lyrically it makes sense. The vocals might not have been so happy because I wasn't happy, but that also depends on how people think about me. If my blood pressure is almost through the roof and I'm still not dead, well, wait till I eat all plant-based. This is day 3 of no meat. I think day 4 actually of no meat. The first 3 days were absolutely challenging. The next 3 days won't be a big challenge. The biggest challenge is all of the things that happen after that, the celebrations, the things, the rituals, and I say those words without mixing them. Be careful. We are what we eat. We sometimes don't recognize or give enough proper thanks for the things that we've eaten. Those are animals. That's the same as your pets. It's the same as our family, as our children. But if we're okay throwing people around, and you can see people getting thumped on the head as a toddler by the ceramic tub they ran into when your dad threw you into it because you wet yourself. If they can see that and not respond, we got a tough crowd. I'm not asking for much. I'm not asking for anything. I'm posting these things, and basically you determine what happens next. So this is a choose your own adventure. Have a great day. Thanks so much for watching. I was literally just led by miracle to the place where I think my dad's going to go. It's a really pretty place. He's familiar with the town. What more mentally can you put him through to make him feel as ashamed as you want to make him feel? Do you want to make him feel ashamed? Do you want to make him feel healed? Depends. It's up to you. Depends on how you think about things. There's a peeling sticker here, which I told a story about. Some of these things are temporary. What's eternal is what happens beyond the shell of everything. That's just my thoughts. Whatever your thoughts are, I haven't heard them in public. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching.